Hey guys, welcome back to Bibliophile Reads. I'm Courtney and today you're joining me for a November wrap up. So excited to be sharing what I read because I have not done weekly wrap ups in the past couple of weeks. I've been busy or posting more tech videos. So excited to just share with you the last few weeks of my reading along with the rest of the month. Also, I can't believe that we're rolling into December. I feel like this month literally flew by. I think we all collectively might feel that way. But the exciting thing about getting into December for me is starting to prep for the new year with my reading journal, how I'm going to keep track of my reading for the upcoming year. So that's always exciting. I am definitely a planner girl. So I'm always excited about like my newest planner and the way I'm going to organize things. So that is something to look forward to. So let's talk about some of my stats for November. Now, I've been using the Bookly app. I think I started in October, midway, and I have been loving it. There's a free version and there's a version that's $2.99 a month. I do pay $2.99 a month for it, but what I love is that it keeps track of your reading minutes per day. You set a goal for how many minutes you want to read per day, and then it imports all of your Goodreads information, so that's on there. But then you get these like monthly reports. You can also do weekly reports or yearly reports for your reading, which I really like as a booktuber and just somebody who is interested in reading. So let's talk about my monthly reading report for November. I'll also have this picture up here as well. So I read for a total of 38 hours and 20 minutes in the month of November. I read 3,028 pages. My fastest pace was the good part. It says 208 pages an hour. I bet I skimmed the last little bit of that. And then the slowest is A Court of Silver Flames, in which I read 23 pages in an hour. And that was not like me walking away from the timer. It was literally that slow. My speed per pages averaged about 79 pages an hour. I finished 13 books. I read 28 of the 30 days, which is great. I like to give myself a day off. The most pages I read in a day was 279 pages. An average number of pages per day is 100. And the most minutes I read in a day is 199 minutes. I'd pick 120 minutes as my goal for each day, and so sometimes I get there, sometimes I don't. Most of the time I do, because you can section it off obviously throughout the day, and so I'll read like 20 minutes here, 30 here, and it just all adds up. And then I have a list of the books that I read this month. So let's start talking about those books. So first up, I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. That's by Laura Gilmore. I was so excited to jump into this book because at the end of October, I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I actually listened to it on audio for the majority of the time and then moved to the book, and I loved it. Now, originally I started off in the book, in this series, The Pumpkin Pie Cafe, and I did not love it. Is it pumpkin pie or pumpkin spice? Either way, I did not love it until I listened to it, and then I got into it. Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, I just read it from the start with my eyeballs, no audio for it. And this book follows Hazel and Noah. We're still in the same little sleepy town, and Hazel owns a bookstore, and Noah is friends with, I want to say the first genie's Logan. And so Hazel is the daughter of the mayor. And so they get together. It's a romance, obviously. I ended up giving that 4 stars because I'm just sucked into the world. I think most people are almost feeling like duped by the series, like they don't think it's good. I think it's so corny and good that I have no issues with it. I honestly think it's exactly what we're looking for and exactly what we asked for. And so I have no complaints. I really like the series. And I will be continuing on with the series. I actually just started Christmas Tree Farm today. This is December 1st and I'm filming this. And so I wanted to start I already read one book on audio, but I wanted to kind of start the month with another of her books. So I just love that. Next up, I read Primetime Romance. This book was really interesting. It follows, what are their names? Bryn and somebody else. Hold up. Okay, it follows Bryn and Josh. They're roommates and it's her birthday. She's having kind of a really bad day. And she loves this show called Carson's Cove. It reminded me sort of like Dawson's Creek. in the way they described it. And she makes a wish about the show. And next thing you know, her and Josh are transported into the show because apparently the show ended abruptly after like a ton of seasons and the two main characters never got together. And so they get transported into the show, and Bryn is like the female main character. And she has to convince the lead male character basically to wrap things up with her to make the show end perfectly. And then her roommate Josh, where they're not involved at all, they're just literally roommates, he is transported into the story too and is like the bad boy of the show. It was really weird. It sounds as weird as it was. I did give it 4 stars because I generally liked the story. However, if you watch the movie Pleasantville, you've read this book. It's exactly the same thing in the sense that they go to this town. There is somebody sort of orchestrating them coming back and fixing the end of the story. And if they don't do that correctly, things can change and it could change the town, which kind of does happen. So it's definitely like Pleasantville in writing. Nothing wrong with that, but I was like, I've read this before. Okay, next I read Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This is part of the Rebel Blue Ranch series. This is the 3rd book, and I am totally sucked into this whole world. I am not a cowboy romance type girl, but this series, I'm invested. I'm here. I'm up. This book follows Gus and Teddy. And Teddy is coming back into the town as they do. She doesn't really have much of a plan. She's kind of a drifter. And then we have Gus, who is part of the Rebel Blue Ranch family. So it's like his ranch. He has a daughter, and he's taking on more responsibilities on the ranch and having a hard time juggling his daughter. Now, the baby mom, who's going to be in the next one, she has moved, or she's at least working out of state for a couple of weeks. So he has the daughter every day. And he's trying to be the best father he can be, and he's forgetting things. One of the things he forgets is his daughter after school from an activity. And so nobody can pick her up. And Gus's sister is friends with Teddy and asks Teddy to go pick up the daughter. She does. And at first, Gus is really annoyed that she went, which is ridiculous. He should be thankful. Then he thanks her. And then it comes out that his family feels like he needs a nanny or somebody to help around the house and with his daughter. And so Teddy does become that person. She doesn't live in the home, but she comes routinely. She actually stays with her father. I think her father has some type of illness that she's helping him with. But Teddy and Gus spend many a day together and many nights together, helping to get his life situated and organized, and in turn helping her get her life organized. I end up giving this 5 stars because, again, I'm sucked into this whole series and the whole town. I read this on my Kindle, and I don't have a physical copy because obviously I'm trying to do Kindle copies, but I do have all the other books in this series, so I definitely want a physical copy of this book. But it was so good. I think Gus and Teddy were a perfect match together. And these are just basic romance books. You're going to get what you get. And so you don't have to think hard about these. You just read them. They're like 200 some pages. You knock them out and it's good. Okay, next up I read Dirty Diana by Jen Besser and Shanna Festi. And this book is a 4-star for me. It follows Diana. Okay, so I gave this book 4 stars. It follows Diana. And Diana is married, she's got a child, she's living her life, but it's just a very straight, mundane daily routine, right? She's gotten into a very basic married wife position. It's not like a huge passion and the love that she once had, but she's not unhappy. She's just not totally fulfilled. And so she actually goes to visit her friend in Santa Fe, I want to say. And she kind of gets a glimpse of her old self and who she used to be and is excited about those possibilities. And part of who she used to be has to do with a guy named Jasper, who she had maybe a fling relationship with. The book kind of goes back and forth through timelines as we have Diana reminiscing about times that she had with Jasper, both like herself as a more jovial person plus intimacies. And she comes back to Dallas and where she's from, and she goes back to living her life, but now she wants to engage other women in talking about, what brings them joy and what has brought them life while she tries to figure out hers. So it was very much a women's fiction novel. It was short. It was really well written. I didn't love the ending, which is why I didn't give it 5 stars, but it was still decent for what it was. The next book I read was Bewitched by Sophie H. Morgan. This is part of the Toil and Trouble series. In this book, we follow Leah, who is not a witch. However, she knows about witch society. And in this book, if you're not a witch and you know about witch society, like it's a huge issue. I don't know like if death is involved. I don't remember that, but it was just like a huge thing. So she goes to this sort of masquerade party and she meets a really cute guy and they go their separate ways. His name is Gabriel and she knows him because he is part of a powerful warlock family. And so he has to go into the quote unquote real world with no magic or limited magic and sort of prove himself to take on like the next generation, like, and be important in his role, I think it was. And so he goes into the real world, walks into Leah's bar that she works with, and she recognizes him, but he doesn't recognize her. However, they start getting close, and she can't tell him that she knows about magic. And if he uses magic for any reason, he feels physical pain. So it's a romance. They end up together. I actually don't remember too much about this book. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars. It must have been really basic because I don't remember that much about it. But not as basic as the next book I read, which is The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. I gave this book 2 stars, and that was being very generous. This book follows, let me find her name, Lucy. And Lucy is having a horrible day. She is in her early 20s or mid 20s. She's had a bad date. She's stuck in a rainy storm. Like all the things go wrong. And then she goes into this shop and finds like a wishing machine, sort of like the movie Big. And she makes a wish to go to the good part. And she does. She's probably like in her 40s now. She's got a husband. She's got a child. She's got a great job. And she tries to navigate her life, and she has to decide, like, should she stay here in the good part, or does she go back to the bad and like work her way up to where she's going to be eventually? I gave this book 2 stars because it just wasn't the way it needed to be. So in my opinion, she goes and she gets to the good part of her life and she kind of explores this good part, right? Like I'm seeing shopping sprees, she's hanging out with the kids, she's making out with her husband, like having the best time of her life. But in this book, she gets to the good part and like questions everything to the point where it's like so annoying. She has a child in the future, and obviously she doesn't have any attachment to the child or know how to take care of it, but it's like in a very annoying way. She doesn't believe anything that anybody's telling her. She's like running around the city trying to find people that she knew before this wish came true. And it just seemed like there was a different way it could have been written to make it a little bit more engaging. Like we know she would be startled and shocked in the future, but like, could she have fun with that? Or does she spend 60% of the book questioning it? Like that was kind of where I was stuck with it. So 2 stars, and that's really disappointing because I also have the book, Is She Really Going Out With Him? And I just can't bring myself to read it because it's just not going to be good. I just already know. I'm not a fan of Sophie Cousins' writing, unfortunately. Okay, the next book I read was The Most Fun We Ever Had by Claire Lombardo. I had this on my bookshelf for a few months and had tried to read it but couldn't, and I had another commute for work and I ended up picking it up for an audio and then finishing it, and it was phenomenal. I ended up giving it 4 stars. This book follows the Sorensen family. Marilyn and David are the parents. We meet them in the early 70s or mid 70s as they are in school together and they meet, and then we progress over time. They have 4 girls, each girl has something going on. We have like the one who's a little bit more of a drinker, who's single. We have the baby of the family who's not doing much. We have one that's a lawyer, and there's one other that does something else. Anyway, oh, a professor. And so we're all trying to navigate. I mean, they all live different lives, but they kind of come together because the second oldest, Violet, I want to say, has a, let me not make up a name. I don't know if her name is Violet. Yeah, okay. Violet, sorry, has a child, and she gave him up for adoption, and it's about 15 years later, and the older sister, Wendy, has found him and brought him to Violet to be raised. So basically, Jonah was in foster care, had been kind of shipped around, and then he was adopted. And then his adopted parents died, so he went back to foster care. And the foster home that he was in is literally like 5 minutes from the parents' home. And they're about to move and put him back in the system. So Wendy's like, let's just bring him into our family. And originally Wendy takes him on because Violet is very upset. And then things kind of roll from there. But as we're going through that thread line of the story, we're getting pieces from history on how each daughter is and how they handle conflict, as well as the matriarch and patriarch, Marilyn and David. So it is definitely a family over time literary fiction book. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I did not give it 5 stars because it was just very long. I'm talking like 600 pages. Let me see. I think it's like 6 plus. Oh, it's 532 pages. That's too long for this kind of book. And so while it was great, there's a lot that could have been cut out. Wendy was insufferable. None of the kids are actually the best, but Wendy was insufferable. And I guess it's hard to like down a book because a character is so unlikable because you're invested enough to dislike them, but it was brutal reading about her. But I highly recommend that book. It was really so good. Then I read Christy for President. This is book number 53 of the Babysitters Club. If you are new to my channel, I am rereading the Babysitters Club from the beginning. I started about last June, and I'm on 53. I'm reading them in publication order, including the super specials. And so 53 is all about Christy getting elected or trying to run for class president. I give this a basic 3. That's the lowest I'll give one of these books. It wasn't anything special, nothing to report back on. It was just a normal Babysitters Club book. I'm not a fan of Christy books normally. I love Claudia and Stacy books as an adult, but I'm going through all of them. So here we are. And now I'm stalled because I'm at 54 and it's a Mallory book, and she's just so annoying to me sometimes because she's written so young. And of course she's 11 in the book, but you know, it's a lot. Okay, the next book I read was If This Was a Movie by Morgan Elizabeth. And she's written a few books that come out on Kindle Unlimited during the holidays or throughout the year, but I really like her holiday books. In this book, I ended up giving 4 stars. We're following Jules and what's the guy's name? Nate. Jules and Nate meet at a New Year's Eve party. We open up with them. They have a one-night stand. Everybody goes about their way. It's actually a 2-night stand because like they kind of hang out the whole second day and they kind of really hit it off. But they fall out because Jules sees Noah seemingly with a family, and she thought like he was cheating on his family with her. Fast forward like a year later, she sees Nate with his daughter and the woman that she saw him with before, seeing Santa. And the daughter asks Santa for a mom, basically, and she's looking for like a dream mom that's sort of ballerina-esque. Anyway, she describes Jules to a T, and then turns and sees Jules and runs up to her and is like, "You have to marry my dad." It was like the most annoying thing ever. And we find out that the lady that is with Nate is actually his sister. And so Jules conveniently has issues with her home, and her friend, who is another sister of Nate, suggests that she stays in Nate's sort of guest house, and we're on from there. So she does help out with the daughter. And they start getting close and reconnecting and communicating, which I thought was really great about why Jules was no longer interested, and he was able to clear up the fact they didn't have a family. So it was a really cute book, 4 stars. I don't know why I didn't give it a straight 5, but it was pretty good. Then after that, I read The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. This was a book that I was reading with my sister. We decided we were going to buddy read. We haven't done that in a while, but we wanted to get something read together, and it took me a while to get started, but once I read it, I was hooked. I ended up giving this 5 stars. This book follows Sydney, who is online dating. She's got these weird dates. She goes on a date with somebody who's not at all his picture. He basically corners her on the street, and then a guy comes to her rescue, and he's this amazing looking guy. His name is Tom, and she and Tom start dating, and then weird things start happening because her best friend gets killed and other people are getting killed around the city, mostly women, after they go on these dates. And so we have to figure out who did it, and it's Tom part of the problem. I don't want to say too much because obviously it's a thriller, but it was phenomenal. 5 stars. Now, I've really only read the Housemaid books from Frida McFadden, but these books that she writes, they are so fast and so good, and they really do kind of confuse you and trip you up along the way in the best way. Then after that, I read Baggage Claim by Juliana Smith. And this book follows Olive, who has not been home for many years. She decides to go home for Christmas. On the flight, she meets the guy sitting next to her, Finn, and they kind of hit it off. It's really kind of weird, though. Like, first, she's, like, not talking to him at all. She gets one drink in her, and next thing you know, she's, like, can't stop talking to him. Then she falls asleep on him. It's just, like, ridiculous how fast that happened. But she's going home, and she has told her family that she has a boyfriend, and she tells that to Finn while she's drunk, and he offers to sort of be the fake boyfriend for her, and she's like, no, it's fine. And the first night that they get to Colorado, which is where they're going, he works at a ski shop, and she's obviously staying with her family. They go out to dinner, and he shows up there and says, like, hey, honey, I'm your boyfriend, and meets the family. And she's like, well, how did you know I was going to be here? And he's like, you told me your entire itinerary on the plane while you were drunk. And so they fake date until they fall in love, because why wouldn't they? That is the typical holiday romance. Okay, after that, I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden because I couldn't get enough. And that was 4 stars. And this book follows a husband and wife who are teachers at the same high school. One teaches math and one teaches English. The husband teaches math. No, the husband teaches English and the wife teaches math. And they both teach a student named Addie who is in the middle of a big controversy. And so nobody can trust her. They don't feel like they can. And then weird things start happening. I can't say because, like I said, it's a mystery thriller. It's so good. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know why I didn't give it 5. I don't think I loved the ending of it, but such a really, really good book. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I wish I could say more, but I can't. It's really good. Okay, after that, I read Snowbound, which is super special number 7. I gave that 4 stars. I don't remember a ton, except that this book follows all the girls as they're stuck in a blizzard, and each of them are doing something different during the blizzard, and they all have to navigate how to do that. And then after that, I picked up Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. This is the last book that I read this month. I actually found it at Barnes & Noble last Tuesday, which it's not supposed to come out till December 3rd, but it was out, and so I picked it up. This happened with the last Lana Ferguson book too. I'm not complaining, but it did happen. And this book I gave 3 stars, and literally I would have rated it lower, but I like Lana Ferguson as an author. I'm going to put the picture here. I did not notice the cover. It's called Under Lock and Key, and we can see on the cover the male character has like a shadow of a Loch Ness monster. That did not compute for me. But anyway, this book follows Kiana, and she is coming to spread her father's ashes in Scotland, and she runs into Lachlan, And he is cranky, but he brings her to her biological grandparents, who are not accepting of her because her dad left when they wanted him to stay in Scotland. And so they're working on that in the background of like trying to fix their relationship while Kiana and Lachlan sort of date and figure out if a Loch Ness monster is real. The whole premise around it was really strange to me. It's also strange that Lana Ferguson will write like one quote unquote normal romance and then like this type of romance. And the romance element of it was really strange to me. I left with a huge question mark on my head and I did not enjoy it. I think if you like Lana Ferguson, I mean, support her. That's what I did. But like, I did not enjoy this book. And I think moving forward, I'm going to be very conscientious of the books that I pick up from her. I'm going to focus on the traditional romances that don't have anything to do with paranormal, animals, sea creatures, any of that. Just people. Just people. That's what I'm going to look for in the future. So those are the 13 books that I read in November. I think I did way better than I thought I was going to do because November was a struggle to get some reading done. But I'm happy with that number, happy with what I read, and I'm entering December with a pile of possibilities. If you haven't checked out my video for my December TBR, make sure you go ahead and do that. And I'm looking forward to a great end of the year with reading. As always, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.